Now.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Performance Max Optimize and Grow session. I'm Deepak Kamda, and I'm the Search Strategy and Activation Lead here at Google, focusing our clients on the careers, publishing, and marketing services, help grow their businesses by adopting our automation solutions. In addition to my core role, I'm also the Performance Max Product Area Lead, which is why I'm here today. A few housekeeping things before we jump in. I'd like to ask all of you to keep your microphones muted while we are presenting. We also ask for you to use the Q&A link at the top of the page to ask any questions during the presentation. At the end of the presentation, I'll take some time to answer those questions. And in case we don't have enough time to do so, we will promise to get back to you over email with the doc that we will be presenting today, and also a summary of those questions that we were asked during this session.
Hey, Deepak, we don't have the Q&A link, so either if you want to pull that up on your side, or we can just have folks ping over questions in the chat if that's easier.
Okay, yeah, that's great. So perhaps if Renee and Dave, if you could help me monitor those Q&A, and then we'll try and do it that way. Perfect. Before I jump in, I just wanted to make one caveat. I know there's a lot of there will be a lot of questions on smart shopping and local campaigns, given the migration of those campaigns into Performance Max. I will try my best to cover those questions, but I am not a shopping expert, so I may need to defer those questions to your account teams. But with that said, let's jump in then. If you're here, then you already have probably launched a Performance Max campaign. And while Performance Max is a great way to target all our Google Ads inventory in a single goal-based campaign, we also know that such a new type of campaign is not always clear what we should be doing after you launch to make sure you're getting as much as you can get from Performance Max. So I typically advise customers that we have three primary levers to optimize our Performance Max campaigns: bids and budgets, of course, ad creatives, and audience signals. I will bring all of these three things together to then kind of help us understand with a couple of frequently asked questions of how we can use these tools and levers to address some of the issues that we may be facing or looking to resolve. So let's jump into bids and budgets. Bids and budgets work very similarly to our other performance channels. When you increase the bids and budgets, it will allow Performance Max to bid into additional inventory. So we always recommend to test into small adjustments whenever possible, since it can often drive greater performance for a smaller bid or budget increase. But how do we decide what is appropriate bid and budget? To do this, we first need to have some insight about the campaign so that we can plan accordingly. When you analyze a Performance Max campaigns, there are 9 areas that you can look into to get insight into how and why your campaign is performing the way it is. So let's go through each of them. With the Auction Insights report, you are able to compare performance with other advertisers who have competed in the same auction as you. You can see how often your ad ranks higher in the search and shopping results compared to other advertisers, and also the share of total possible impressions you were able to generate compared to theirs. This information can be important in helping you make strategic decisions about bids and budgets, and also if you want to change your creative strategy given the competitor landscape. The Diagnostics and Insight tool helps advertisers identify common reasons why their campaigns may or may not be serving or receiving conversions. For example, it will highlight when a campaign's ad is not running due to all asset groups being paused, account suspensions, or low ad strength, or other diagnostic checks. These insights set advertisers' expectations during the campaign scaling, and the issues diagnosed help campaigns to start serving and serve optimally. Advertisers can address issues identified with this diagnostic insight by applying inline recommendations showed on the page. With Audience Insights, we are able to help advertisers understand the interesting audience characteristics of your converters. We surface Google audience segments, which are overrepresented in your conversions when we compare it to target population. It helps advertisers understand characteristics of users who are converting on their campaigns and the top interests and behaviors that they have. The audience insights page consists of two things. Firstly, the persona insights. The persona insights help you answer which Google audience segments are converting for your particular campaign and what percentage of those conversions do they represent, or how overrepresented they are for your particular campaign versus the general population. The second tool that you have within this report is the audience asset insight, which basically allows you to answer the questions of what Google audience segments are the assets most resonating well with, so that it allows us to understand how can we generate more similar assets to resonate to those potential audiences. With these two insights, advertisers will be better able to understand their customers and take action like updating their ads and promotions for even better results, while also realizing the benefits of using optimized targeting, automated bidding, and providing fresh first-party lists to improve performance. These should assure customers that Google automation is able to reach to their target customer group with the right creatives and the messaging. Additionally, advertisers can see a propensity to engage with your assets so that the advertisers can figure out which assets are performing the best and which ones are specifically relating to that audience. Next, the search terms insights can help advertisers understand what consumers are interested in and when the advertisers' ads appear by grouping search terms into relevant categories. We show search volume and growth of these categories and how an advertiser is performing against those categories. Search term insights help advertisers move away from anchoring on individual queries in the search term report and focus them on broader intent-based categories and their performance against them. Search term insights help advertisers understand what customers are interested in without having to sift through thousands of individual search terms. This looks at search terms, both public and private queries, and organizes them into categories for advertisers. Also with categories, Google Ads will be able to provide contextual recommendations so that advertisers can take action and make changes more quickly. With the search term insights, advertisers will be able to tailor their ads to the consumer's queries and also improve overall campaign performance. They can help you understand where we need to focus and prioritize our time so that we're focusing on areas that represent the highest search volume or represent the most growth. The interesting thing about Search Term Insights report is that it not only does this for Performance Max campaigns, but it can also do this across all your campaigns within the account as well, specifically search and shopping. Next, we have search trend and demand forecasts. And this allows us to help advertisers understand products and services they offer and the new opportunities to capture additional demand that we anticipate in the coming months. These forecasts are generated quite regularly. In fact, it's updated daily. And the search trend insights only shows categories which have a positive week-on-week, month-on-month, or year-on-year growth. And these are refreshed daily so that the trends show as soon as they emerge. For suggested trends, the insights page show trending categories, which we think are related to the advertisers' businesses, but where they don't currently show ads on. If you don't see this search trend, it's because there is not any meaningful differences in terms of week-on-week or month-on-month movement. Now, some of you are probably aware or already checking in your Performance Max campaigns to see if any of these insights are available. Well, there are certain criteria that need to be met before these insights can be surfaced. For instance, you may not see auction or diagnostic insights if your campaigns are performing as intended, or if campaign fluctuations were not caused by auction dynamics. I won't go into detail of this and the next slide, but feel free to keep this as a resource when evaluating Performance Max campaigns. The one thing that we are increasingly getting the requests on support for is actually on how do we forecast demand. And I'm proud to share that we recently launched Performance Planner for Performance Max. And this should allow you to, to do some forecasting with your data. So a couple of things to keep in mind when you use Performance Planner. Forecasts are based on internal Google data based on your account's historical performance and are validated by machine learning. Number two, Performance Planner allows you to discover the best bids and budgets for you to drive most of your conversions based on a specific spend scenario. And lastly, it can show you a curve with possibilities of results you can achieve for your business with Google Ads. Now, there are 4 things to think about when you leverage Performance Planner. First, understand the near-term performance based on Google forecasts of market situations, such as competition and consumer growth. Number 2, determine the optimal bids and budgets for your investment. Number 3, understand the incremental volume we can gain at your target CPA or ROAS. And lastly, explore different return ROI scenarios to drive or accelerate growth. We hope to further strengthen this tool by allowing you to plan across multiple products, such as search and shopping, and we are expecting that feature to be rolled out in 2023. So after we have dived deep into understanding your campaign performance and trying to optimize your bids and budgets, the biggest lever we can leverage is on ad creatives. And let's kind of dive in a little bit more about that. So asset groups, as you may already know, is a concept that that's effectively functions a bit differently than ad groups, but is something that you're probably more familiar with. Asset groups are designed to help you manage your creative assets and URLs related to a specific theme or audience. You can then layer an audience signal to give the Google Ads insight into how you expect different audiences to perform. We'll dig more into audience signal insights shortly, but the main takeaway here is that you can actually create multiple asset groups within your campaign with different creatives and audiences rather than having to create multiple campaigns. The most common use case I see for multiple asset groups is when groups of assets need to drive to a specific URL that is different from one another within the asset group. So in this case, the retail example, which I have online, which I'm presenting right now, there is an asset group dedicated to ski jackets versus another one, dedicated. I guess it's got the wrong one. But over here, we're looking at generic pets versus pets food, and each of them drive to specific, URL sites. When we think about what assets you need to launch PMax, we have minimums in place that are required to push your campaign live. But over here, you can see that in many instances, we recommend utilizing more than the minimum requirement. The reason for this is that the more assets you have, the more it allows the system to create unique ad permutations that can help drive performance across a wider variety of auctions. I also want to call out that while the video is not required, we recommend adding at least one video. If you do not have a video, Google Ads will automatically create a video for you based on your text and image assets that you have always provided. With that said, I always recommend you provide your own video, and we'll speak a little bit more about how we can do this. So let's go through some of the best practices for each of these asset groups. When it comes to text ads, there are 4 things that you need to do to write compelling ads. Number 1, ensure that you have a clear description of the product or service. Number 2, highlight a key USP that you would like to feature for that specific target audience that they would benefit from. It should be engaging, and it should have a clear call to action. I generally recommend as a starting point for clients to look at comparable search ads and utilize the top performing RSA ad assets, and then build and improve upon on an every 3 to 4 week basis, move it up on it as an optimization strategy. When it comes to images and logo, reflect on some of the best practices we have recommended for discovery campaigns. Effectively, we want to leverage simple images that evoke emotions of the product or service, and most importantly, we want to ensure that the quality of these images are really high so that it can be resized easily and still look good. When it comes to video, we recommend that you leverage the video action campaign best practices. One thing that I consistently, ask advertisers to do is to brand one thing I noticed that advertisers do is they use their existing brand videos for a action-oriented campaign. And whilst I understand why this is being done, because you may want to just fill up the asset with a video, it's not necessarily the best strategy. Instead, we should think about having a video that delivers a product experience or something that compels the user to take an action. It grabs the attention early, and you're branding persistently. Some of these recommendations are generally different from what you would want to do for in a brand awareness kind of strategy, which is more about storytelling. Now, if you're unable to generate your own videos, the campaign will, like I said, generate videos for you, but there are also two additional options available for you. The first is something called Video Builder, which is a tool that advertisers can access on your Google Ads interface. It will allow you to create videos based on a library of some existing shells, which are expected to deliver strong performance, as it already incorporates some of the best practices that we have put together. All you need to do is select a particular video type and then add the right images with the right video with the right text ads, and it will generate this video instantaneously. The second option for our advertisers is to leverage GTech production services, who are able to develop customized creatives based on your existing assets, whether it's images or text, or just taking your branding video and redesigning it for a action-oriented campaign. Please reach out to your account managers if these kind of services are of interest and if you may want to leverage them. Once you have all your assets uploaded, you can always leverage AdStrength to understand which creatives should be replaced or refreshed based on the relative performance. And it is important that we are consistently doing this on a frequent basis, on a monthly or at least once in 6 weeks, to ensure that we are optimizing our creatives as much as we can. So the last lever in terms of optimization is leveraging.
We have a few questions, so we might want to just kind of pause to
Sure, yeah, I think we have enough time, so I'm happy to pause over here and take the questions.
So first question we have from Bruce is, why does Google launch Performance Max, and what value does it bring over existing search, display, discovery video? Is it mainly a benefit for small advertisers who don't have enough conversion signals?
Yeah, so the benefits of Performance Max is it allows you to consolidate your performance needs across all Google Ads and inventory. Generally speaking, when you run a separate campaign, you're optimizing for that specific network or channel, but there might be incremental opportunities that are available across other networks that can deliver significant value at a lower cost than you could get from your existing strategy. So for example, for clients that are very heavy search spenders, we typically recommend using Performance Max in tandem with the same bid strategy. And Performance Max is an incremental channel for them to get those conversions at the same value. So there obviously are benefits for smaller advertisers in that it makes it easier for them to leverage Google Ads inventory, but there's also a lot of benefit in terms of being able to capture those incremental inventory at similar, if not the same price as you are getting from your existing buys.
I can also add one analogy that I like is that I've heard before is almost like these different campaign types are almost like the bricks, and then Performance Max is kind of the mortar that can come in between them to really fill in the cracks of areas where you may not be serving for a variety of reasons. And we often see that those really responsive ad formats, really where the system can kind of decide how to pull together combinations of image, text, video in some cases together into a really truly responsive ad format, can be really impactful. The next question that we have is from Alex, which is why build multiple asset groups instead of multiple campaigns with one asset group if we can't see reporting by asset group? Which is a very good question that I've heard many times. Deepak, do you wanna take that one?
Yeah, I think it's all about, the way I think about Performance Max is there is some degree of, typically some of the objections that we hear with Performance Max is that they don't get the level of insights or understanding of what they can get from, say, a search campaign. But as you have seen, we have already introduced like 9 different features that will allow you to get a pretty deep understanding of how your campaigns are performing. So the benefits of consolidation means you get stronger performance, and if you were to split campaigns, you may lose some degree of that performance. Generally speaking, we do recommend consolidating those different asset groups into one campaign if the primary objective of your business or your campaign is similar. By splitting those campaigns, you may end up losing some of those signals that could drive that incremental performance. Now, I think it's a function of where the comfort level you have, and if that it's the insight that you get from splitting those campaigns is material, then that makes sense. But like I shared, there's a lot of those insights are now available already in terms of understanding which search terms are converting or driving more clicks or impressions for your business. Renee, do you have any other view on that?
No, I think what I've seen too is that sometimes when we create lots of different campaigns, it's just spreading things too thin. Theoretically, all of those campaigns, unless there's some real difference why they're split, different budgets, for instance, you're really kind of eligible for any given auction, right? So when we're creating different campaigns, we're putting different budgets against them, potentially different targets. That's one thing. But when really it's kind of the same overall objective, then we're almost kind of forcing. It's almost like rotating ads evenly, where we're almost trying to like force the system to choose one group over another. Where I think when we kind of use the best practice of taking that campaign and using asset groups, feeding off of the same budget, feeding off of the same target, we're really letting the system choose the right asset group for that particular auction, and not spreading it kind of too thin across too many different campaigns where each individual campaign isn't really able to deliver the performance or the insights. I've seen customers consolidate and actually see better performance because we're just giving the system a lot more signals to work with. I
think one thing to add on that is it makes sense to only split those asset groups when the effective CPAs or ROAS is very different between each of them. But if the average that you're getting based on the volume that you're happy with, if it's very similar, the incremental benefits you get from consolidating are far outweigh the benefits of splitting it out.
And we have one sort of related question to that, which is another one I've heard a lot, which is from Isabel, are we able to compare performance between 2 asset groups? I can take that one. Currently, we certainly have the insights reporting that Deepak mentioned. I know there's been a lot of asks for like asset level reporting, the way that we can see campaigns. I know that it's sort of on the long-term product roadmap, so hopefully that will be coming to the product soon. As of today, it is not available the way it is for campaign level, so I do know that sometimes that's the reason why we tend to have some customers split things out into campaigns. But hopefully coming soon, we will certainly keep all of you posted if and when that rolls out in the near future, because I do think that that will make a big difference when we look at asset performance. We have one more question in the chat. We can take this one and then we'll get back into the content and again take more questions as we go along. But we have a question from Louis. What bids do you recommend we set PMax campaigns at compared to our display campaigns? Most of our PMax volume is from display, but it also has videos which run at higher CPAs and search ads that run at lower CPAs.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to share a little bit more about Performance Planner. But typically, as a starting point, if you're running a Performance Max campaign and you've not run it before, we recommend using a max conversion strategy to understand what the effective CPA should look like over a 2 to 3 week period. And that will give you a sense of the type of volume you can get at that specific average target CPA. Generally speaking, it should be we want to give a bit more freedom at the starting. So when you launch a campaign, you want to be a bit more, you want to allow the campaign to have more inventories it can participate to understand the value it can drive. And then over time, we can tighten those bids a little bit more to ensure that we're maximizing efficiency. Cool. I'll continue, but thank you for those questions. So let's move on to the last lever, audience signals. Audience signals is a feature that's unique to Performance Max. It's essentially, it allows you to have unique insights of which segments of users are more likely to convert. And Performance Max allows you to add those segments in as audience signals to let Google know. This is a completely optional feature, but can be a great way to ramp up the machine, both at the start of the Performance Max campaign as well during the campaign if performance isn't quite where you want it to be. It is important to note that audience signals are not a targeting feature, it's just a signal. So it may potentially serve ads to audiences that are not within that signal that you have put. But it's just a way to inform the machine that these audiences are likely to have higher value for your particular conversion event. We also we also get asked which audience segments can be used with Performance Max. And the answer is any of these audience segments that you're currently using in Google Ads, or including remarketing or customer match. You can also use custom audiences or in-market audiences that are identifying audiences that have very high intent. We do recommend prioritizing lower funnel intent audiences, such as first-party and custom audiences, and then build new audience lists based on insights that you generate from your Performance Max campaigns. Again, all of these are used as signals in Performance Max, and so like I said, they might be serving outside these audience segments. Now, so I guess the question is, should you use audience signals? Well, it's completely optional. So if you do have insight on which audiences are performing or converting really well for you, then adding them ahead of a campaign or in situations when the campaign's not performing as well will allow the system to understand, how we can, drive performance quickly. Now, if you're already running a Performance Max campaign, it's likely unnecessary to go back and add those audience signals because it's already performing as per intended. However, you can always create a new asset group within the campaign that is targeted to a specific creative of certain audiences that you have found to perform even better. Now, in addition to audience signals, you can also utilize audience-based conversion value rules. You don't need to be utilizing value-based bidding. You can either max conversion value or target ROAS, but you can still use this feature if you're on target CPA or max conversions. But more importantly, it allows the machine to be steered towards those customers that you value the most based on your audience list. For example, if you know that a certain audience is worth more to you, you can add a conversion value rule to multiply that value by 1.5 for that particular audience group. You can also get more specific with your audience by using new customer acquisition goal. If you have insight about new customers provide more or even less value than your existing customers, you can set a new customer acquisition goal to value and bid towards new and turning customers differently. You do have already to be running PMax to utilize new customer acquisition goal, but since you are already running it, you can reach out to your account team for more information about it. So let's try and bring all of these different things together. First of all, we would like to kind of share with you that Optimization Score for Performance Max was launched, I think, late Q3. And just like Optimization Score for your existing channels, if you navigate on the Recommendations tab in your account, you'll see a number of different optimization and growth opportunities to help you prioritize what changes can have the most impact on your campaigns. Most of the recommendations you might already be very familiar with from channels like search. We mentioned at the top of the presentation that bids and budgets changes can be effective optimization levers, and this is and the recommendation tab is a great way to identify where those changes might improve performance. More importantly, it takes a look at the competitive, environment. It looks at consumer demand. It looks at your existing goals, and it provides those recommendations that are relevant for your individual campaign. We also recommend, using this to assist you in determining which PMax groups will help you get stronger ad strength. The recommendations tab is also a great resource to identify and fix any issues that you may be having within your account, whether it's fixing disapproved products or global site tag issues, or preventing your Merchant Center account suspensions if you're a retail customer. So I highly recommend checking these recommendations tab out periodically. I like to recommend once a week to make sure that you are indeed, maximizing the opportunity that's available for your campaigns. If you're not already familiar with Optimization Score and the recommendations tab, please reach out to your account teams, and they can help you walk through the product in more detail for your specific accounts. I saw a question from Alex, but if it's okay, I'm just going to hold on to that, and I'll just finish my couple of slides, and then we'll dive into those questions. Okay, so let's take a couple of kind of questions that we typically hear from customers, and let's walk through how we could approach answering those questions through existing features or rollouts that we have done in Q3. So the first one is that my campaign is not performing. I'm not hitting my goals. So as a starting point, we recommend leveraging the auction reports and performance shift insights tab, and also the bid report to understand the auction dynamics and see how we can plan for more effective bids and budgets to regain performance. We should also take a look at the audience persona and the search term insights to see if there's anything insightful that can allow us to improve our search text ads or also our images or videos. And the last thing you can, as I mentioned just now, is we can always look at the optimization score, which may have some recommendations that will also assist in improving your overall performance. So if your campaign is not serving and I can't see any impressions being delivered, there is a user diagnostic insights tool that, if a problem exists, it will surface, and it can help you understand if there are specific things that need to be fixed or added or removed, or if there's a policy issue to address that particular challenge. And again, I think OptiScore does a pretty good job of understanding where, helping you to pinpoint where the issue arises. The one thing that Optimization Score, just to kind of like a sidebar, Optimization Score is still like something that we're developing, and we're always happy to get feedback and see how we can improve it further. But the one thing that it doesn't do as of now is maybe inform you what are specific things you need to do on your creative. So I feel like a lot of the opportunity and headroom we see for clients when it comes to optimization of their PMAX campaigns is really on improving those creatives. Just wanted to kind of reiterate that. Okay, so I'm pretty much done. So I'm going to move to Q&A to see if there are any questions or if there's certain clarifications of what I've spoken about.
Okay, I'll go in order of the questions that we have in the chat, and folks feel free to message your questions over, or once we get through these, if you're brave enough to come off of mute, we're happy to take some live questions as well. But we have one more question from Isabel, which is, we understand splitting assets into different campaigns can hurt performance. Is this also true for splitting assets into different asset groups within one campaign?
Is it also true for splitting different assets within different asset groups? Sorry, can you repeat the question, Renee?
Yeah, so I think what she's asking is, we know that taking asset groups and kind of creating its own campaign can hurt performance, but if we have multiple assets and then we're breaking them out into different asset groups. So I can also take a stab at this one because it's one I've gotten a lot. So what I would say is, to Deepak's point earlier around if there's a specific landing page or a different really specific creative that you're doing around that landing page, like that sort of pet example of pet food versus pet toys versus kind of generic pet, right? If those assets are fundamentally different from each other and they kind of have their own unique grouping, that's when we would recommend breaking it out. And certainly if you're looking to drive those assets to a different landing page, that's a use case. If it's just a question of spreading things out, we definitely wouldn't recommend that. We always recommend, utilizing really more of the recommended number, not necessarily the minimum requirements when it comes to assets. Having more assets, especially if they're unique from each other, adding in 5 headlines that kind of all sound similar doesn't really give the system its best chance to assemble those really strong combinations. But if you just have a lot of assets that you're looking to add in, we would definitely recommend, starting with as many as you can fit into one asset group if there's no reason to break it out from a landing page perspective or creative perspective. And then what you can always do is, we certainly recommend revisiting and seeing kind of what are your lower performing assets and potentially swapping those out for others. So that's typically what I would recommend. If there's no reason to break it out, then certainly keep it together, because all of those different singular assets come together to perform against the overall creative that the system serves. So by dividing it out too much, you kind of run into that spreading it too thin. But certainly if those assets really align more with a specific landing page you're driving to, then that would be a really strong use case.
Yeah, I think to exactly what Renee said, the key part about Performance Max, and as you become more advanced Performance Max advertisers, is really focusing on the creatives and trying to have a systematic approach to consistently trying to find new ways to improve the creative assets that you have, or tweaking it more to the specific audiences that are continuing to drive most of that value for you. Thanks, Renee.
The next question we have is from Alex, and the question is there or will there be a way to target a specific URL directory or group of URLs in an asset group? I believe right now it's only one URL, but URL expansion setting makes it too broad.
Yeah, actually, Renee, do you know the answer for this?
So this is a good question at the asset group level. I think I would have to double check. You definitely can target multiple URLs at the same time, so an in between. If you're looking for more of a feed-based solution, I believe that we're still working on that. But that should be more to come. I think what I would recommend maybe connecting with your account team on your specific example of sort of what are the URLs that you're looking to target. One thing that can sometimes be useful is if we use URL expansion, but then negate certain URLs, that can sometimes be effective. That's what I've typically seen advertisers do if there's several URLs that you want to utilize and drive to, but maybe not all of your URLs. You can definitely put in some URL sort of screening so that there's certain ones that they don't go to. But I think this would be a great example to dig into with your account team, as well as the search specialist that typically works on your account, to figure out what the best solution would be for your example.
Yeah, Alex. Actually, Alex is my client.
Perfect.
So Alex, I think like a hack that you can use right now to Renee's point is at the campaign level, you could narrow the list of URLs that are going to be relevant across your different asset groups, and at least as a starting point, that will ensure you're able to be reach your target audience sufficiently. But it is it's I think the feed-based solution is something that's in the works. So feel free to reach out to Conrad or myself, and then we'll follow up with you on this, Alex.
We have a question from Patty, which is, what are your recommendations around converting existing search campaigns to PMax campaigns?
Yeah, so this is a great question. Generally speaking, we recently did some analysis, and we found that the reach that you can get from search is still higher when you leverage broad match keywords. So the recommendations that we are sharing with clients is to have a dual approach of leveraging broad match plus performance max as a strategy to maximize coverage. Hope that answers your question.
The next question we have is from Melissa, which is audience suppression on the development roadmap for this product?
Audience suppression?
I think probably negating audiences.
I don't believe so. Are you familiar with any development on that side? I don't think we are negating any audiences specifically.
I don't believe so, just because of the way that our audience signals work. I think the one exception would be like the new customer acquisition. That's really the only thing that we have where you can like bid only to new customers. The core part of our audiences is that it's signals, and so it's really meant to be something the system can use to help go out and find the right conversions for you at your target and your budget. But given just the way that audiences currently work within Performance Max, where we're not targeting a specific audience, the sort of flip side of that is that we can't necessarily negate a specific audience either at this time. But certainly, if there's something where it's like you don't want to target existing customers, that would be a definite use case for using the new customer acquisition beta that we have and reaching out to your account team, because that would only target, there's an option to only target new customers in that situation. But that's the only one that I'm aware of where we kind of say like audience targeting versus audience signals.
Yeah, I think there's also like a couple of ways you could do, like use conversion value rules to maybe have a higher value for audiences that you do care about. That could potentially be one avenue. If you're using target ROAS like bidding strategy, you could maybe have, and you can discuss this with your search specialists or your account teams, but you could look at playing around with the values as a means to potentially like do that. But it's a very hacky solution. But we would be really interested to understand your specific use case. And if it's if it's something that we hear, we can always bring that back to product.
The next question is, great session. Thank you for the great feedback, Kendra. Will you be sending out this deck after the call? And yes, we will send out the deck, and we will also be posting the recording, I believe. Dave, let me know if I'm missing anything, but we will be sending this out after the call. So keep an eye out for that in the next couple of days. We have a question from Patty, which is there a way to set up custom parameters on the asset group level?
Custom parameters? I'm not sure. Renee, do you know the answer?
I don't believe that you can on the, I'd have to double check. I think we would have to double check on that. I don't believe so. Also, I know there's only some custom parameters that are compatible to begin with Performance Max. Not all of the fields are available, but we can, if you reach out to your account team, have them just let them know that you have this question, and we will connect you with that information once we confirm. Great. Are there any other questions? Feel free to either ping in the chat or come off of mute if there's anything else that we can help you with.
Yeah, just wanted to little follow-up question from the one I asked in the chat earlier. I understand the setting campaigns to max conversion to get the best sense of what bits to set your PMax campaign, but do we have any insights as to like where most advertisers have seen the best performance from PMax campaigns? Like at what bit level? Just any insight like that, because I would assume that if we do have too low bids, the videos in our PMax campaign would be a little bit restricted on serving just based on what we've seen on performance on just our other video campaigns.
Louis, can I just have a clarification? Are you already running these campaigns, or you're speaking about launching new campaigns?
No, these are already live.
Right. Okay. So I believe Performance Planner is in beta. So Performance Planner will allow you to figure out those right bids in terms of the volumes that you can get for that particular bid and budget. So is there have you tried or explored this with your account team?
Yeah, we've been talking about just general Performance Max optimizations, but I was just wondering if there's just any industry insight on best bid practices for PMax apart from just max conversions.
Yeah, so there are many different the TLDR is there's no real best practice from an industry perspective, because the campaigns that you run are very specific to your conversion actions that you have on your website for your product or service. And the other thing to remember is Performance Max, the way the delivery of Performance Max can be very different for even two similar competitors. If, for example, competitor A has a very high coverage on their existing, say, search campaigns, and say competitor B and say competitor B has very low coverage of their search campaigns, they can see very distinctive difference in performance because they already have a high coverage of the that search inventory, for example. So there isn't any industry specific like insight that can be shared from that perspective. But I as a starting point, I do recommend using Performance Planner, because it is the closest thing that you will have that is customized for your specific campaigns and goals.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If there's no other questions, we will follow up with all of this material. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.